Good afternoon, Cubs fans. We have a lot to talk about on this edition of the CHGO Cubs podcast. Kyle Tucker rumors. Will he be a Chicago Cub? Is Cody Bellinger on the way out? What about Seiya Suzuki? We'll talk about it all on this edition of the CHGO Cubs podcast. This is the CHGO Cubs podcast. My name is Corey. I am joined, as always, by Brendan, and we are coming to you a little spooky, Brendan. It is Friday the 13th.
Is that true? Okay.
I don't know. Is it spooky or we're playing with luck? I'm not really sure.
I mean, the way things have been going, Friday the 13th might be a good thing for this franchise.
Yes. So we have a ton to talk about. This is one of those moments where we have spent years of off-season podcasts at this point, like 3 years, saying, I don't know what we're going to talk about. I guess we'll talk about that same rumor or player again. We'll talk about Cody Bellinger again. We'll talk about, can Christopher Morel play third base again? Should they sign Matt Chapman? Whatever it was last offseason. And we got like real smoke here, Brendan. Like there is real smoke around the Chicago Cubs. And it's, dare I say, exciting?
Exciting, a little nerve-wracking.
We could be let down.
Full preface. Listen, it's like midnight in Chicago right now.
Yeah.
You guys should be aware of this. We're time-stamping this.
Yes.
This may be outdated by the time you hear it.
Almost
We have Cody Bellinger rumors to the Yankees have been popping up. We have, as you pointed out, Houston Astros, Kyle Tucker rumors. Isaac Paredes involved, maybe Matt Shaw involved, Cam Smith, Seiya Suzuki. We'll get into all of that, but it's hot. There's a lot of smoke. Yeah. I would be shocked if this goes out and a move does not happen. And, I think it's to our credit that we're up late recording this. I got my sleepy time tea over here. You see that steam coming up? Look at us.
We waited. We wanted to
break some news.
Give it time. Let's see if something happens tonight. With our luck, it will still happen tonight, and whatever. But we do want to be transparent about that. We are recording this in the wee hours of the morning on Friday the 13th in Central Time.
I'm in my pajamas.
If what you're listening to is out of date, you might not even be hearing it, and I don't know who I'm talking to in that event.
Talking to the void.
Regardless, the CHGO Cubs team in some form or fashion will have an emergency show or another show, an extra show, whatever we need to do to catch up to date if this ends up being outdated by a move the Cubs make. But as we are recording this, nothing has happened yet. So that is how we are going to talk about things. And as I said, you can trust the CHGO Cubs team to have all of your live coverage. If we need to do 5 emergency shows tomorrow, we will do it.
That would be a good sign.
Maybe not me, but Cody will do it.
Oh, I'm not doing 5 tomorrow. This is it.
So let's get right at let's talk big fish. I think the more I don't want to say pressing, but like the more seemingly soon to happen rumor perhaps is Cody Bellinger. But I don't want to start there. I want to talk with the big fish. I want to get you and I on the mic talking about who I hope is the Cubs' future right fielder, wherever they want to put him, Kyle Tucker.
This is a move we've been waiting for.
You can see it in your eyes, Brendan.
For years. I'm a little uncomfortable even talking about it like this because I don't want to be let down. But I remember you and I talking about trades when the Cardinals were acquiring Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, Mookie Betts. It's in the same fashion of those Mookie Betts tier trades, soon to be free agent, top offensive producer, young guy, seemingly could get, an annual average value contract of 35 plus million for multiple years. This is that impact bat that 5+ WAR, no nonsense bat that anchors your lineup, shrinks down the variance, and allows your team, when they go through lulls offensively, to at least have one guy have a higher chance of carrying through those lulls. Kyle Tucker is every bit of that bat, and the profile he resembles the most is familiar to you and me, and that profile is vintage 2015, 2017 Anthony Rizzo, someone who does not strike out that much, strikeout rate around 15%, walk rate double digits, home run potential 30+ home runs year in, year out, weighted on base average of 380+. But as a right fielder, which is different than the first base value that Rizzo provided, he is the exact bat you draw up in a video game. No strikeouts, lots of patience, and lots of power. He's the ideal guy.
Yeah, I mean, you can do whatever splits you want. You go back to 2021, top 10 hitter in baseball, WRC plus, top 13 overall in wins above replacement. This is a star, you guys.
Star.
And I have seen it put a lot of ways, but I think the way to look at it for me is that, as you said, Brendan, this is the move that we have wanted them to make. When another team is trying to figure out their payroll, how do they restructure, retool, you go in and take advantage. And if you are not going to cut the check to guys like Juan Soto, and that was a situation that didn't seem like the Cubs were ever involved, and that potentially he was even interested in coming here. But you're not going to cut the check.
Tom won't pay $750 million?
Well, yeah, but like Bryce Harper, a guy we know actually wanted to play in Chicago. If you're not going to cut that check, if you're not going to take advantage of, Mookie Betts being available and doing the trade and sign to an extension like the Dodgers did, the list goes on and on and on. This is an opportunity for you to find that star hitter, your left-handed power bat guy, and he's available. He seems to be readily available for the taking. And if this is not the moment to act, you have built up your pipeline. You have developed a solid core is the wrong word because of how it's associated with like a previous group, but like call it
you have a floor on this
team. Yes. You have a lot of good, pretty good, even some great players, but you are waiting for that like upper tier elite level talent. And one of them appears to be available. If this is not the move, Brendan, then I don't know what we're doing here. And I want to be clear, Kyle Tucker doesn't immediately make this team a playoff team or put them at 90-something wins or anything like that. There would still be work to do, and it would depend on who they send out and things like that. But he is the exact player that they are missing. And we talk about it so often. There's so many ways you can draft and develop these guys. You can sign them in free agency. You can trade for them. You have to do one of them. And right now the Cubs are in that spot where the organization is healthy, but they need to take that next step. You got to push the chips in here. You have to. And we'll talk about the 1 year remaining on the contract and extension stuff. I think we're going to talk about Kyle Tucker a lot in this episode. But I got to be honest with you, Brendan. I really don't care. Like, he's available.
We'll get into it.
You're in the mix. You're in all these reports. You have a better system to deal from than almost anyone. You got to do it. This has to be your guy. This has to be Jed's like push the chips in moment.
So for folks who are not online as much as you and I, which by the way, have been refreshing Twitter for the past 48 hours, the most recent report, again, as of midnight or early Friday morning in Chicago, the latest reports where it's drawing some interest is from former Astros beat writer Jose de Jesus Ortiz, who used to write for the Chronicle in Houston. And he said, quote, in a tweet, "According to AL folks I trust, it will be a surprise if the Astros don't trade Kyle Tucker within 48 hours. The Cubs appear like clear favorites." End quote. And this is right after multiple national beat writer reports talking about Heyman, Ken Rosenthal, The Athletic, and Sahada and Mooney were reporting this. Andy Martinez from the Marquis reporting it. There's a lot of smoke. Very rarely do you see the Cubs connected, not just to a player, but connected in a fashion where the national media and the local media all seems to be cohesive on the interest. Now, the parties involved, the players involved is a discussion point that might be a little variable at this point, but it's clear the Cubs are interested. And not only are they interested, they seem to be the favorites or the most likely endpoint for Tucker at this stage of the trade discussions.
Yeah. I mean, even looking like roughly, on his Fangraphs page, like steamer projections for next year, 276, 366, 510 with a 373 weighted on base average and a 148 WRC plus. I need it, Brendan. Yeah. This is the guy. Like,
this is the guy.
They have needed a player like
Look at your face right now. I haven't seen you this happy since 2017. I
got to be honest with you. I can't believe they're actually connected to it. This is one of those things like
talking with a smile on your face
because he had the 1 year left and stuff like that. And it just is one of those things where like I had come to believe like they just weren't going to be connected in situations like this.
So you look at the steamer projections. You laid them out right there. So around 5 to 6 WAR. Okay. The specific impact that has is when you subtract Bellinger's projected WAR, which is around 2 wins right now. And the thinking is you're going to trade Bellinger to New York or somewhere else, you lose Bellinger. You add in Tucker's WAR, which is, 5 to 6. It's almost a 4-win difference right there between the two. And it'd be a $10 million savings while you trade Bellinger and acquire Tucker. Now, what they give up to get Tucker will change their projections. But if you just do a simple subtraction, if you just substitute Tucker into Bellinger's spots, it moves the Cubs. Currently, their 2025 batting WAR or value projections from 13th best to 6th best, decimal points away from the Braves, Yankees, and Dodgers, which is crazy to say, but that's a 4 WAR addition by just getting Tucker. Now, who they give up for Tucker? Is it Paredes? Well, that's going to have an effect. Is it simply prospects? If that's the case, then you still have that higher end value addition, but that's really the impact. That's a significant addition and one you can't get through free agency most of the time unless you spend that 35 to 40 million per year, and they don't have to do that right now.
Right. Well, and if they're not going to, then
which they're not. They have to do this.
This opportunity has arisen. You have to be the ones trying to capitalize on it. I mean, Brendan, like this is a man who in 78 games last year was worth 4.2 wins above replacement.
I mean,
78 games.
That made the most valuable player if on the Cubs. If you were
on the Cubs 180 WRC plus. I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. He's 27 years old too. So this is a guy, if you look at age curves, presumably will be at his prime for the next projecting 3 years. It's wild to even see someone like that available. It's almost like what Chris Bryant with the Cubs had hoped he would be at the tail end of his Cubs contract, without like the significant age and injury concerns. And Chris Bryant, a little bit older at the tail end, not 27 like Kyle Tucker at the tail end. That's what it kind of feels like. And specifically, if you go back to that projected value, what that would do for the Cubs. Let's say they're an 83 win team right now. These are all back of the napkin calculations. 83 win team on paper. Let's say he does add 4 wins. You go from 83 to like 87. Now, how Boyd projects, how PCA projects, how Bush projects now as some stability. It could very well be that they get an 85 win projection without Tucker, and him adding to that total would put them at 89, 90 right there. It's very possible, given what they do for the remainder of the offseason, that by adding Tucker and a few other moves, they reach that 90 win projection. And that is insane to even discuss, given what we've been talking about for the past 2.5 years.
Sign me up. I mean, it's nuts.
I mean, if you're not signed up, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know what we're waiting for, because it's like, and all right, let's hit our first ad break because I want to talk about the potential return for Houston in this scenario. And I want to talk about the 1-year contract thing and give our thoughts on that. But we should take our first ad break because otherwise we're just never going to do that.
I know.
We're just going to keep talking.
I know it's going to be 4 in the morning. Keep talking. Okay, CDJR. For the best way to end 2024, head to Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram and shop the Wrap Up Year Sales event to score some of the year's best savings on new vehicles. Before the clock strikes 2025, hurry into the Ray CDJR to browse our huge inventory of new vehicles. And right now, celebrate the end of 2024 with $24,000 off MSRP on select new vehicles with a dealer discount, or shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. Let the amazing team at Ray CDJR help you during each step of the car shopping journey with a Ray's Price Promise. The numbers you're hearing now are the same prices you could expect to shop in-store and online. That's because Ray's Price Promise means no price changing, no add-ons, no hidden fees. Since they prioritize affordability for their customers, hurry into Ray CDJR today and shop in Chicago's area's largest inventories, then drive home with more money in your pocket than you'd expect. So if you're in the market for a new vehicle, you have to check out the team at Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram because they are the only team we recommend. So visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. And for more information, visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake or raycdjr.com. Serving the community since 1963. Blue Moon. Some beers can say they're brewed for baseball. Only Blue Moon is brewed by baseball. Beer and baseball just go together, and no beer goes better than the one that was literally born in a ballpark. It goes together with baseball just as good as Kyle Tucker goes with the Cubs in right field. And if they end up trading for Tucker right now, I may go get 3 Blue Moons out of my fridge and celebrate. So why strike out with the same old beer when you can get something one of a kind? A beer this good only comes around once in a blue moon, but you can enjoy it all season long. Bring the ballpark to you with Blue Moon Belgian style wheat ale. It's, again, one of a kind every time. Get Blue Moon delivered to you by visiting get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO to see your delivery options. That's get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO. Blue Moon, made brighter. Celebrate responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
All right, Brendan. So I think that, this is one of those situations where I certainly do not expect that there is any chance really of a trade being agreed on and some sort of extension happening in the background or happening quickly. Even, I think some of those other moves, Mookie, Paul Goldschmidt that you mentioned, guys that were traded and extended, I think it was a few months in both of those cases before the extensions were ironed out and agreed upon, et cetera, et cetera. I don't care. I don't care about that. I really don't. I think that some people might be scared off by trading prospects or the cost control of Isaac Paredes, whatever it might be, for a guy that only has 1 year and probably wants to hit free agency, et cetera. And they may look at the Juan Soto situation and say, well, the Yankees had him. They went to the World Series, and that wasn't enough of a connection to keep him in the door. Now, firstly, I'll say Kyle Tucker's great. He's not Juan Soto. And if somebody wants to offer, what was it, $50-something million more, the Mets did than the Yankees, and I think, what was it, a year less too? Something like that? Whatever. Then so be it. Like, at that point, I don't know what to tell you. But I think for me, Brendan, 2025 matters. This is a team that has not made the playoffs in a full season since, we say this all the time, since 2018. They haven't won a playoff game since 2017. 2025 matters. I don't know that I even like thinking of it, well, it's just 1 year. Yeah, and we've wasted a lot of years. So God forbid they push some chips in and make 2025 really matter and really something that they're pursuing aggressively. But I also believe, Brendan, that you get the guy in the door, you get him in front of 41,000 plus faithful at beautiful historic Wrigley Field. You let him meet Pat Hughes, experience the Ivy, a Chicago summer, the culture of the Chicago Cubs, this fan base. And if you're Jed Hoyer, in my mind, Brendan, you aren't making this move unless you and your ownership group have the intention of keeping him here long term. Whether that's something you have to wait until the following offseason for him to hit free agency and talk to some other teams, so be it. But I would be very surprised if Jed was looking at this as like, yeah, we got him for a year and then we're not going to pay him. Like, I know that's the pessimistic view that folks will have, but I don't think I've been as pessimistic about this team or ownership or front office as many people at times. But I just think if you're making this move, if you're going to give up what you have to give up to do it, you're doing it with the intention of keeping him beyond a year, even if some of that is out of your control.
It's a complex discussion because what they end up trading for to get Tucker is going to form our opinion on the 1 year discussion.
Sure. Yep.
So right now the idea is Paredes. Paredes makes sense for Houston because of the short porch in left field. Folks will look at Paredes. They'll see on his Fangraphs page he has a 3 projected WAR for next year. Not a free agent until 2028. Obviously, he's cost controlled with arbitration for the next 3 years. Really cheap. Seems to be valuable production, and he is. That's why he would headline a deal for Tucker. The way the Cubs might be thinking about this is by trading Paredes, you get back a no-nonsense 5 to 6 WAR guy. With Paredes, although they traded Morel for him, they're very high on him. There is a discussion to be had why he's projected for 3 WAR. The way these projections work, whether it be Steamer or Zips, generally you weigh the last 3 seasons and then you add in an historical comp to that projection. The reason Paredes is projected at 3 wins is because his comparisons are guys who don't strike out that much and they have some moderate power and the age. So of course, because of those traits, he's going to project well. If you dial back in on that power, how does the power come about? For Paredes, it's heavy pull side power with uniquely below league average bat speed and doing so extremely down the left field line in a fashion that most guys just don't do. That's neither
I got the perfect ballpark for you.
Yeah, it's Houston, right? It's perfect.
Yeah.
That's neither bad nor good, by the way. That's not to like diss Paredes. It's very hard to hit the ball in the air down the line that often. But because of that uniqueness, it's difficult to measure him up against guys in history. And so as a result of that confidence in projecting his value is, I think, a little bit shakier than what you might see on like Fangraphs. That being said, when you trade Paredes, let's say the range of outcomes for him is like 1 to 4 WAR. Let's say the low end is his 2024 second half. The high end is, his second half of 2023. That's about 1 to 4 wins. For Tucker, it's a narrow range of outcomes. It's basically 4 wins as your floor and 8 wins as your ceiling. So if you look at this, you have a 1 to 4 range of outcome for Paredes and a 4 to 8 for Tucker. They don't overlap. Tucker's floor is Paredes' peak. So the risk is, of course, you lose 2 years at third base, but the advantage is you open up a negotiation window for 1 year, and you also get more money and revenue by making the playoffs next season. And you have a very robust pipeline of prospects coming up who may fill that void. Yeah. So you can see the value gained by just his production, but also the value gained by that negotiation window. Now, so to then extend with the Yankees, but guys do. Mookie Betts did. Paul Goldschmidt did. Nolan Arenado's been with the Cardinals. And to your point, it took about 4 months for Mookie Betts to extend with Los Angeles in 2020. So it does go both ways. It can be done where you extend them post-trade within a few months.
Now, obviously, you're talking about Paredes, but I think for a lot of Cubs fans, the bigger concern or loss that they would feel is who else would be in that package.
Matt Shaw? Are they going to trade Matt Shaw?
They're not trading Matt Shaw for a year.
Given how Jed's operated, I would be shocked if he did that.
There's no way.
It goes against everything he's done for the past 4 years.
Well, and just the way that he's developed, like, I'm all in on Tucker, and I do genuinely not care very much about the year of control, and I think you can really take that time And if the intention is there, you can do the work to keep him. You have the money to do it. If they want to do it, they can do it. It's always been true. But I would be very uncomfortable trading Matt Shaw for someone that is not for sure going to be here for several years. I just think that's, people might disagree, but I don't know that I would say I wouldn't do it. I just would feel uneasy about it. Like if we're talking Owen Casey, who I think is a great prospect, Cam Smith, recent draft pick, showing a lot, flying up rankings and through the system, fine. Like that's what you develop these guys for. And I think
you would do it. You're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
I think you're in a minority. I think most fans would not put in Matt Shaw. And I don't even think
I don't want to, I don't want them to trade Matt Shaw for a year of Kyle Tucker. I really don't.
I would do it.
That's an overpay.
They're not going to do it. I would do it.
They're not going to do it, but that's an overpay, Brendan. Like they shouldn't do that.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, listen, a 27-year-old bona fide, predictable superstar giving up Isaac Paredes with a 1-4 WAR projection, and Matt Shaw, who is very good, very talented. Does it seem like an overpay? It probably is, given the precedence of similar one-year guys.
Other people weren't giving that up.
Yeah, that's the point. They were not giving that up. So that would be an overpay, and it would set a new precedent. So I don't think it's going to happen. But that being said, I would still do that. I really would. And I know that's controversial and everything, but that is what should be required to get someone like Tucker. So I still would do it. I don't think it's going to happen, though. No. I could see Cam Smith on that deal.
And look, like I'd be happy to get Kyle Tucker. I think in that scenario, though, you can look at certain trades and be like, Jed might have lost this one. Like we got a great player, but if he overpays and doesn't go with what the market has been, it's like, okay, well, why did you do that? Like, but if we're talking guys like Cam Smith or Owen Casey or James Giantos, et cetera. Well, and I want to highlight too, like it does suck sometimes to believe in those guys, watch them come through the system and envision them and how they're going to be at Wrigley Field and thinking about how valuable that is if they come up through the system and you have all those years of, cost control and stuff like that of these great players. But it's also a badge of honor for the front office if they are able to make moves and develop players and trade players to get guys like Kyle Tucker. If you're able to turn Christopher Morel into Isaac Paredes into Kyle Tucker, great work, everybody. And you might feel like, oh man, I love Cam Smith. Like what an exciting player. Like I'm dreaming on the ceiling. Like great work, everybody. That's a slam dunk of a draft. Then if you're able to use those assets to make your team better and bring proven, like bona fide studs into Wrigley Field and into that lineup. Like it doesn't have to only be looked at as like a negative, like, oh, we got rid of this guy, whatever. It means the organization's doing good work. Mm-hmm. Like they're able to succeed in different areas and then utilize that when they need it in other areas. So I don't want them to trade Matt Shaw. I don't think they should trade Matt Shaw for a year of somebody, but I do think broadly, like being able to make moves and develop players and put yourself in a position to acquire a talent like this, like that's a good sign for the organization. And it's just at this point, a question of what is that price going to be? And what is that point where Jed either says done or he said, he's like, Houston, no, like you're asking for too much. Like you got to go talk to New York if you want. And kind of, if those are the two teams too, like the Astros, like their ownership and like front office, they hate the New York Yankees. Like and they're not as well positioned as the Cubs either to make this move. Like, but I don't know, man, like when you're competing maybe against one team and that team is despised by the team in the talks. Like at a certain point with certain prices, Jed has got to say, go trade him to New York then. Go send your star player to the Yankees and watch him play with Aaron Judge. You do that then and maybe give me a call if you change your mind on that.
Right. Let's take the ad break here. We'll come back around, continue
I want
this.
to, when we come back, like we can finish on the price, but then we can talk Cody Bellinger. We can talk about what that would mean. And if they do headline with Paredes, who's playing third base?
Right.
We can talk about that too and what that looks like for the projections when we come back.
Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that will not break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. They have a style in your favorite team's colors, probably blue, red, orange, whatever you want. They have them. If your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it. They have the most insane protection program in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. If you're like me, I lose my sunglasses. I lose my stuff all the time. Shady Rays is perfect for guys like me. Exclusively for listeners too, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com. Use code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses and try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Circus Sportsbook, whether it's pro or college, the app to bet football is Circus Sports Illinois. Circus Sports, it's sports betting the way it should be. Circus Sports Illinois has high betting limits, low holds, and exceptional customer service. Bet on all your favorite teams in every game this season. Spreads, props, futures, or in-game, Circus Sports has it. Fund and bet like a pro from anywhere, anytime in Illinois. So download your new bookie today at circusports.com. Must be 21 or older, and gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Okay, Brendan.
Who's playing third?
Let's talk about if they headline with Paredes. Well, okay, wait. Let's address one other rumor. First of all, I'm going to start broadly. Not going to be specific. All I'm going to ask of folks, or suggest, might I, in this offseason, don't let certain people, reporters, if you might, rile you up during the offseason. There are folks out there, the way they tweet things, the way they put information out, maybe they leave out context of a quote or two. They're doing it on purpose. Don't let them rile you up.
It's just the facts, Corey. It's just the facts.
Right.
You know, just reporting the facts.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. Okay. Further, on that subject, or completely unrelated, depending on who you ask.
Related. Cubs related.
I definitely don't think they are. I've seen a rumor or a suggestion of this trade for Kyle Tucker being Isaac Paredes and Seiya Suzuki plus, like also including a prospect. I don't see that. And if you read through all of the context that I was alluding to, Carter, Jed, even Joel Wolf, Seiya's agent, all said, I don't think they want to move him. Jed and Carter were both like, yeah, we don't want to trade Seiya. We expect him to be a Chicago Cub. We're just doing our due diligence and explaining that people are calling about him, right? They should answer the phone on anybody. Point blank. Jed wouldn't be doing his job if somebody called and said, hey, I'm interested in Seiya Suzuki at a really high price. He said, untouchable. That's not good president of baseball operations work. So you shouldn't hope that Jed's doing that, whether he has an intention of moving someone or not. Both of them, plus a prospect, doesn't seem like a good idea, Brendan. I would be, you're moving out so much of your current offense, including your best hitter. Love Kyle Tucker, but that would leave me wondering, like, okay, we have the stud, but now, like, how are you filling the rest of this lineup here? I've just seen that rumor, and I'm just going to, like, broadly, they should not trade Seiya Suzuki. If somebody's giving you a crazy price, sure, fine. But he has been, as we've noted, like, last 365 days of baseball, like one of the 10 best hitters in baseball. He's your best hitter. What they want to do with him in the field and whether or not he wants to DH, I don't really care about. Like, he'll DH if Craig Counsell tells him to DH. Like, he'll get over it. I don't love that idea. I want Kyle Tucker a lot, but then it would be Isaac Paredes plus prospects. I'm seeing the vision of, like, all right, this is making the MLB team better. Keep adding, and we got some, like, very interesting potential here. Trading your starting third baseman and right fielder, who happens to be your best hitter, I'm a little more like, okay, well, now how are we kind of filling in those gaps?
Well, also too, how does that fit into Houston's plans? Right now, if you look at Cott's projected contracts, they're $12 million underneath the luxury tax tier 1. If they acquire Seiya and Paredes, then they would probably be around $5 million close to that tier 1. They may not have the room to even operate with comfort.
Doesn't really help them with what they're trying to do.
Yeah. So like from Houston's perspective, it actually may not make sense. Now, from the Cubs' perspective, if they trade Seiya, that's 3 to 4 WAR plus Paredes 1 to 4 WAR. And from the Cubs' point of view, they'd be gaining Tucker back for the same WAR output by saving $15 million or so, or not 15. It would be about
you're losing a lot of control.
Yeah, it would be about $5 million in savings, and you lose the control. But you put all the value in one player. You would have to spend that $5 million like elsewhere. I don't see the Cubs.
Doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make.
They shouldn't trade Seiya Suzuki. We said this like weeks ago.
But we have to rationalize it, right? So like if it's being
kind of, Jed and Carter keep saying like we don't really have an interest in trading, and we expect.
I understand. Like, but it's in the media, so let's put it out there. Why would not work? It probably will not work because of $5 million in savings, losing team control, and what you would spend that $5 million on is likely not going to outweigh what you get back in return. Now, do they surprise us and use that $5 million elsewhere? Of course, maybe.
Well, and probably in that scenario, you're keeping Cody Bellinger.
You're probably keeping Cody Bellinger, but still, we're talking about the trade specifically with those two teams. Yeah. They would have to use that $5 million to get back significant WAR in some way, and that would be another wild trade elsewhere. So I did want
to talk about it though, because there was I think a tweet going around. I don't remember if it was from an Astros beat writer or somebody in that space that was suggesting like their asking price was Paredes, Suzuki, and like prospects. And it's like, no, that's nice that they're asking for it, Well, but no, thanks.
Ken Rosenthal put out a story just hinting that his name came up, and that was being amplified and kind of run with, but there was a caveat that it was unlikely, and that hasn't been emphasized in subsequent reports. Yeah. So, so it goes. But I really doubt there's validity to that, and doesn't mean I don't think Seiya could be traded, but it would have to be very creative, as we've talked about. I also to bring up the whole thing with his agent. So his agent was like holding court.
Yeah,
I mean, you're shaking your head, but I think it does deserve to be talked about a little bit. So his agent was actually talking about this like unprompted. A little unprompted about how Seiya does not want to DH. So that is news. Like
that's Cubs relevant news. Yeah. What I didn't like is that it quickly turned into, oh, the Cubs are shopping Seiya. No. They hate him and their relationship's bad. And it's like, guys, come on.
But his
Jed's
agent
doing his job. He's keeping the agent informed.
Of course, but it was significant media discussion with the agent. But the agent said that he would not have signed with the Cubs if their plan was to DH him, and he does not want to DH. So that is news. And my response to that is, well, go and catch some fly balls.
Yeah,
in right field,
I don't care about that, man. I love Seiya. I don't care. Yeah, too bad.
But from the agent's perspective, there's only benefit to be gained. You put that out there, you put some pressure on that your player wants to play defense, and by proxy, you boost everyone's value. So that is intentionally beneficial from the agent to put that out there, but I don't think it's harmful or conflictual with anyone involved with the Cubs per se.
Well, and maybe Joe Wolf is doing Jed a solid. No, hey, we don't want Kyle Tucker. Our right fielder says he doesn't want to DH. So if your price is too high, we're just going to say it's not worth it. We don't want to piss off Seiya.
Right. I know. Wink, wink. Yeah. Pretty smart. Yeah.
Anyway, it sounds like the Cubs have no interest in trading Seiya unless somebody does something crazy, and teams were calling. So Jed is doing his job by not blindsiding them that those conversations might be happening, even if those conversations are, hey, we're really interested in Seiya Suzuki. Here's what we're thinking. And Jed says, not for us. Thanks, though. You still tell them. Like, that's good business. And
I think it got a little bit further than that, though. If he's telling the agent, hey, we're listening to these calls, like it probably was being considered past that phase one stage.
potentially,
Like even if
he's a really good player. I'm
yeah,
sure
even
they're
if it's
getting
even if it's
interesting offers for
unlikely.
him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Seiya Suzuki is a really good hitter, whether some people want to believe that or not. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they're getting like decent offers for him. Like it may be something that's talked about, but that's very different than like the way that conversation was going when those quotes first came out. That's all I wanted to say. And address that specific package. Like I think that's you're trading so much major league talent from a team that needs more major league talent. Like I'm not sure I would see the vision there, but I don't know. Let's talk about Cody Bellinger. I think wrapping that all up, I want Kyle Tucker. Just do it. We all want it. He's a stud. Get him in Wrigley Field. You can see it. I tweeted about Pat Hughes calling one of his homers. Like you can see it. You can feel it. I'm moonshot.
Get out the tape measure.
Oh, I need it, Brendan. We need it. We need it. The city needs it.
Everyone needs it.
Yeah. Possibly more imminent though.
He's got a chance.
And intertwined, you know. Well, and the little banter between Pat and Ron about Kyle Tucker. You know.
Sorry, my mind is just going.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Bellinger.
Zaidman in the background laughing.
Ha 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 ha.
Yeah. Possibly intertwined. Like it does seem like Cubs want to maybe move some money and then use that money potentially on Kyle Tucker. I guess the thing with Cody Bellinger is if they're going to move him, New York certainly seems to be the lead candidate here. That is where all the smoke is. And similarly, like, and I didn't look at the map, but just like for a lefty that hits the way Cody does, like you'd have to think that maybe not as much of an advantage as like Paredes playing in Houston would have. Like Cody's got to do good work in that short porch in New York. I'm not looking at like the StatCast overlay, but like a handful of those balls must be out in New York that are dying in the wind of Wrigley Field.
I'm looking at it now, it's 4. So he would have 4 extra home runs at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah. Do you want that, New York? Like you lost a lot of home runs recently. So if you're interested, I think the question in that particular move is that a salary dump? The Cubs are like, here, take Cody Bellinger, take some of this money. We don't really care what you give us back. Or would the Cubs be getting anything back for that move? This is one of those things, Brendan, where like we talked about his opt-in situation so much and like what we would kind of prefer, what we thought Jed would maybe prefer. The fact that we hear this so much after the opt-in, you can never like guarantee things in our position, but like they're going to trade Cody Bellinger. I'm like, it just seems reasonably certain that that's going to happen. There is so much discussion. It really seems like they did not want him to opt in and they have other plans. And maybe at the beginning, they weren't sure what those plans were, but now like maybe this Kyle Tucker thing is materializing. They're pitching, you know, they're giving their presentation to Roki Sasaki. Like maybe it's all intertwined. And at this point, when you're reading it this much, it's just like, it does seem like the Cubs front office would like him not on their books next year.
And by Sasaki, you mean like having Seiya there as an added bonus to have.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's
you know, look,
agents.
I don't even know if you were joking or not, but like,
no, I'm not actually.
Yeah. The Cubs have done a lot of good work to be a destination for international players, specifically Japanese players. Trading one of them with a few years left on the deal when you maybe lied to him about the weather in Chicago, it's not the best look. Like, obviously you'd still have Shota, but like, I do think trading Seiya, especially, you know, asking him to waive a no trade clause or whatever, like that can potentially do damage to a reputation you've built as a trustworthy and good destination for guys coming over from Japan.
I was being serious. Yeah. I mean, I think too, having Seiya in right field would create mutual trust with say in the Cubs, the agent can go to his other players, say, hey, you know what? They've been transparent with us and what they're doing. It adds value to that. So now, is that directly connected to Bellinger? All the trade rumors, who knows? It's likely they want to free up that $27 million, save that millions of dollars, spend it elsewhere. Again, if you just substitute Bellinger and Tucker, it's about a $7 million savings with his arbitration in Tucker that you can spend elsewhere. So if I had to guess, it's probably going to be more of a salary dump for Bellinger. I think him opting in signals what the market was projecting for Bellinger, and probably not the best. So as a result, it's going to be treated as a salary swap, more or less. You're not going to get back probably significant value. You may get back, I don't know, a back-end reliever or something like that, a mid-tier prospect, but make no doubt about it, it's going to be predominantly influenced by freeing up that salary that will then be spent, hopefully, presumably, elsewhere.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those moves that you have other things in mind.
Yeah.
Like, we're doing this because we're trying to
it kind of feels like the whole Adam Warren deal with Castro in 2015. Different context, because Castro had a cheaper AAV and longer team control. But they're thinking
money for Zobrist.
Yeah, you free the money for Zobrist, and you
position.
have and the position, and it kind of just makes sense. So the
So
logic makes sense.
Here's the thing we didn't talk about. If Isaac Paredes is part of a trade for Kyle Tucker, we are back. We're rewinding the clock a few off seasons here, and who's playing third base for the Chicago Cubs? Is it Matt Shaw?
Yeah.
Who's playing third? Who's on third?
I know a lot of folks would want to give Shaw the reins from day one, and I would be inclined to do the same thing if we weren't this close to 90 wins. I would give Shaw the opportunity. The team were projected as a 92+ win team. So maybe they get there. I'm not sure. But as it stands now, Tucker would probably get them 87 to 89 wins, probably 87 wins to be conservative. And so I would like to elevate that floor a little bit. And that is in the form of another trade or a free agent signing. But you keep the window open that if it does happen for Shaw where he progresses, then he takes over that position. But this is also the reason why I keep harping on this. I know I sound like an idiot to many, but this is why I would have, you're nodding your head over there.
Myself included, yeah.
Yeah, yourself included. But this is why I would have promoted Shaw last year. I would sacrifice the 40-man flexibility by giving him that 40-man spot late August. That way you have a month sample of information. And you can learn from that from the front office point of view, but the player himself can learn from that and adjust. And I think for PCA, that was valuable in 2023 going into 2024. And we didn't get that with Shaw. So as a result, for me, there's more uncertainty to start the 2025 season that I wish was addressed. And as a result of that uncertainty, I would like another player outside the organization to come in and elevate that floor by a win, while keeping the window open for Shaw to take hold of that.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this a lot. I think I agree with you. And I, short of having the exact name for who this would be, but I think you would like to provide that soft landing, bring in an established veteran type player that can allow Shaw to have those opportunities, someone that doesn't need to start every day. And as you said, if Shaw is blossoming and it's his position, great. Like, that's the plan. It's hopefully his position for 10 years or 10 plus years, whatever it is. But it's dangerous for the team and also for him in his development if it's just sink or swim. And he seems like the type of guy that would thrive in that type of situation. Like, he's just one of those gamer grinder kind of guys. You always compare him to Dustin Pedroia, like that type. But you just want to have that. That's a lot of pressure and a lot of a burden to put on a young player who's never played at that level. And that's just not optimal for that. Now, Yeah, it's just going to be, it's interesting to see how they do that, because what I was thinking of there is, do they still pursue a starting pitcher via trade? Are those conversations that people have had and seen about Nico and the Mariners or
So
other
then,
players? Is
yeah,
that all still happening? Like it seems possible, albeit maybe unlikely. I'm not really sure that like this is the off season of just like Jed wheeling and dealing Hoyer, like just making trades. Here comes Kyle Tucker. Here comes, Luis Castillo. We're shipping guys in, we're shipping guys out. Maybe that's how it goes. That's a lot of moving pieces. But when we looked at this team coming into the offseason, like, how do they do it? If they're not going to sign Juan Soto, if they didn't sign Shohei Ohtani, whatever, like it's difficult then to just like plug and play these solutions that get you to 85, 90, 95 wins, like wheeling and dealing. Like, you got to get creative. So it seems possible. But again, like, then you're leaving these questions of like, okay, well, if you're trading Paredes for Kyle Tucker and then you trade Nico for starting pitching, who's playing third base, who's playing second base, where's everybody playing? So I don't know. And maybe that's something that Jed is going to work on and planning to answer. Getting more top line talent and being okay with some of those positions not being as reliable maybe as we'd like them to be. That's one way to go about this. But I think when we talk about these moves, the Tucker move, any of these moves potentially more so than ever, I think in past off seasons, like this is going to be one we have to see what the full trajectory of the off season is, because just one move, like it answers some questions, but it creates some more. So there would be work to be done. How he would go about that, I'm not sure. It's exciting though, Brendan. I'm excited about it. And at the very least, even if they trade Isaac Paredes for Kyle Tucker, their answer isn't going to be shoving Nick Madrigal at third base. So that's a step up, isn't it?
You don't know that? Nice minor league contract, invite to spring training, familiarity there.
They trade for Tucker, they extend him, but then they've spent so much money that they're like, yeah, we got about $500,000 for somebody to play third base.
Nick Madrigal, come on over.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the free agent pool, Paul DeJong has been hinted at, played third base, had an okay season last year, maybe can provide that 1 to 2 baseline WAR. You take another flyer, so you gamble twofold on Shaw and Yoan Moncada at third base. The issue with Yoan Moncada is just the injury concerns over the years. Only 50 plate appearances last year, 350 the year before. But in his short-term career, when he's healthy, very athletic, in his short playing time, still provided value. Even 350 plate appearances in 2023, had about 1.1 WAR, can play second base as well. So that's maybe where Jed can look at.
How about
you
trade for Kyle Tucker, put him in right field, stay as DHing, Michael Busch, your new third baseman, with Matt Shaw, Pete Alonso playing first base.
Now you're getting a little crazy over here, but I love that deal.
I don't really care about Pete Alonso.
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the third base solution, I don't think is in the free agent market if they end up trading him. If they trade Paredes, I think you have to go out elsewhere and get some type of like utility infielder. I think you need a little bit more confident in that floor. And so for Moncada, I don't know if it's quite there. For Paul DeJong, the price might be too much through free agency. So I think it's going to have to come through a trade. But I do want someone else on that 26-man roster to provide that floor.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just better for Shaw's development, like to have that safe landing and just a little bit of insurance. And it allows Craig Counsell to be more deliberate, like he was with PCA throughout 2023 and also 2024, like being deliberate about here's those days off, here's how often this guy is playing, versus like, if you don't have other reliable options, it's like, all right, Matt, here's your position, like go get him, which again, like maybe that works. And maybe he's the rookie of the year and we're talking about a 90-something win Cubs team because all of this has just gone gloriously for us. But it's just not, it's not an ideal position to put a young player in.
That being said, if Shaw,
Brendan, like Kyle Tucker, puts up a 7 WAR season. PCA hits his ceiling. He's a 6-7 WAR player. He's stealing 90 bases and whatever he's doing. Matt Shaw, rookie of the, I don't know. We can dream, can't we?
We can dream, but that's the best case scenario. That's the top 90th percentile outcome. I think you account for the worst case outcome, and the worst case outcome is you have some growing pains with PCA, Michael Bush's sophomore year.
Yep.
You have to account for this, and to your earlier point, the starting pitching. Do they go out and spend some of that money to shore up their starting pitching depth? Is there not concerns, but confidence and projections for Shota's second year Major League Baseball, for Justin Steele's year to year? Unfortunate and out of his control, his injuries, and projecting maybe 185 plus innings. Jameson Taillon's age is starting to get up there. Of course, we have Boyd's, who hasn't had a significant inning load since 2018. So I do think if we look at like the need, I would probably risk third base more than the starting pitching depth if money is limited, if that's the case. But in theory, they should have the finances to address both positions if they do trade.
Well, and the capital, and whether you're talking dollars or players. It does seem, when we have heard those quotes like that, it does seem like they're not done in the rotation, and there's been talk of doing that in the trade market. So again, like it's always tough to square if they make a big move to get someone like Tucker. Like, does that take you out of other conversations? Is that kind of, you have to peel back, or do you keep going foot on the gas? And it's like, nope.
James Triantos to second base, Matt Shaw at third base.
Yeah, whatever
Ryan
you got to do.
in the rotation.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we can wrap up shortly here.
You think this audio ever goes out?
I don't know. See. I really don't know.
We'll see.
The lost tapes.
The lost tapes at 12:43 in the morning over here in Chicago.
I don't know.
I'm about to fall asleep.
Yeah, I really don't know. It is exciting though, and I do appreciate like reading, especially some of the stuff from like guys like Ken Rosenthal too, like who are talking about the Cubs like aggressively pursuing Tucker, but they're like throwing jabs in there too. I don't know if you saw that one, but he said something, I think in one of the recent articles, that was like, if Tom Ricketts was operating like the behemoth they should be, they could pair him with another former Astro, Alex Bregman, to play third base instead of operating like a Midwest bank or something. Is very funny.
Honestly, though, I will say that does make sense.
Sure.
I'm being serious. They may have the finances.
Championship, like
they may have the finances to do it.
It's time to win a division.
But you look at games. Hold on, you look at Bregman for a second. Like, doesn't strike out that much. Good power, good defense. Like, he fits the mold of like Jed's type of player, like high floor type guy. Doesn't strike out that much too, right? So, just saying, I could see it, and that could be a surprise to everyone. Let's say he's like a 6 year.
Tom reads that stuff and is like, you know what? I will operate like a behemoth.
But
I
mean,
am
for
going to spend
Bregman,
all this money. Actually,
like maybe it ends up being 6'180" or 6'200". It's not that crazy of a deal. Like, it's really not. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just in a good mood right now. It's very possible.
Look, we'll see what happens. There's always the potential to get let down. And Jed himself, even talked about it. Like, trades are difficult to pull off. Like, until you have signed the dotted line, players pass their physicals, the medical stuff. Like, it is always easy to talk about this stuff, but like getting it to that finish line, it takes two to tango, sometimes more than that. Like, it's a difficult thing. So we'll see what happens, but
it doesn't have to be this difficult, by the way. Like, baseball, you're killing me right now. And Theo's killing me too. They're making deals on the 4th of July. They're making signings at 1 a.m. for Bellinger.
Yeah.
Get a life. Come on. Put some timing deadlines on this. It's not healthy for anyone. Okay? Like, don't these people have families? Take their phones away. Let them make the deals during the app. I want a nice Wednesday 1 p.m. trade.
Now, Brendan.
I guess so. I spent more late nights talking to you than my own family for the past few years.
Yeah.
God.
Well, I think, look, it's exciting that the Cubs are even in this conversation, which is, I'm sure some people would be like, God, the bar is on the floor. Like, they're happy to just be mentioned in an article, but it is. It is. Like, I'll wrap up by just reiterating one of my earlier thoughts, which is like, there has to be a moment where you pick that direction. Like, you're either retooling and rebuilding and stockpiling and thinking of the future, or you're trying to win, and the present is what you are valuing, and winning.
Carter did say that. He did say that this week. He said it's time to trade future wins for current wins.
Yes, and they've done a really good job of putting the organization in a healthy place. But it's time for the Chicago Cubs to win at the MLB level. It is time for them to take hold of a bad and cheap and getting worse division and get in these conversations with the Phillies and the Dodgers and the Braves and the Padres and now the Mets, like, of teams that are serious contenders for a World Series trophy. Just getting Kyle Tucker and pulling off this trade doesn't do it, but it is a serious step from Jed Hoyer in this front office, and it would do a lot to rebuke the reputation that he seems to have of being risk averse and not playing in the deeper end of the pool. And rarely do you get an opportunity where something seems to show up and it is just perfect for you. It is a perfect player for you and your front office and the types of players you like. It's the type of player your team needs, and he seems to be available for a price that you can pay. So go do it. Now is the time. Man, Jed's in the kitchen. Meal. Time to cook, dude. Like, we're ready to eat. Let's go.
I've been starving for 4 years.
This is the move.
This
is the move. This is the off season. We need it.
So before you sign off, 30 seconds here. Do you think this is going to happen? I already kind of know. I think it's going to happen. Like,
I do kind of think Jed does it.
I think it's going to happen. And this is a very dangerous mindset to have, because I don't know how you feel about this. I have not been this convicted about a trade happening that has not happened yet.
Ryan Roberts.
Honestly, probably,
yeah.
Very scared about that. So we'll see. Hopefully this ends well for us.
Yep. Shout out to anybody listening to us that used to be on Pro Sports Daily, because we spent some late nights together.
Oh my gosh.
Jake Peavy, Carlos Beltran, all of that. Yeah. Carlos Lee, etc. So anyway, reminding, we recorded this in the early morning hours on Friday morning, late.
It is 1 a.m.
Thursday
right
night,
now.
sort of, but Friday morning, technically. It may be outdated. Stuff may have happened. Keep on your socials, your news, wherever you get your news, and just understand when this was recorded and the context of this conversation. And as you guys know, CHGO Cubs team will assemble in some form or fashion if there is breaking news, if we need to do an emergency show, updated shows, et cetera, keep on with our guy Ryan Herrera and Jared Willis for any updates, news, press releases, etc. Visit allchgo.com for their great written work, and keep on with the CHGO Cubs team. We will have you covered whatever happens. And if nothing happens, we'll have you covered on that too. But better not, Jed. That's all we got.
All right.
Go get Kyle Tucker.
Please.
This is your moment, Jed. This is the player.
This is my moment.
It's ours. You've missed on other ones. You've passed on other ones. You've gotten beaten out for other ones. This is the one.
This is it.
This is the time. Push some chips in. Go for it. Let's bring a division, wins, success, whatever, to beautiful, historic Wrigley Field.
We need it, Corey.
We need it. Let's go do it. God. Kyle Tucker. Come on. All right. So Brendan and I will be back with you next Friday, or maybe sooner, for an emergency show.
I'm not doing a show tomorrow. It's all you guys.
Okay. If they get Kyle Tucker, you'll do a show.
I'm not doing it. I might do it. We'll see.
I might do it. Thank you guys for the support. Thank you for tuning in. We will talk to you again next Friday. And hopefully by then, Kyle Tucker is a Chicago Cub. But even if he's not, as always, go Cubs.
We all silly like the mayor.